African immigrants settle in Canada. It is what it sounds like. They help newcomers from Africa settle anywhere in Canada and adapt to life here without hassles, providing individual and family support, driver's road test assistance, student support, computer skills training, and job search assistance. Free consultations are available all year round. Contact African Immigration Settlement in Canada. Visit AISIC.ca. That's AISIC.ca.
Thank you. So next on my agenda is a little overview of what AISIC is and what we do. So I'm going to give a brief introduction of AISIC. AISIC means All African Canadian Immigration Solutions Incorporation, and it was founded in May 2009, established through the vision of a passionate leader who recognized the need to help African immigrants settle and thrive in Canada without unnecessary stress. Since inception, AISIC has remained committed to empowering newcomers to build a stable and successful life in their new home. Our program and services include road test assistance and driving education, youth empowerment and mentorship programs, support for international students, community and family support services, elderly and child care support. So I was talking about our programs and services, and they include road test assistance and driving education, youth empowerment and mentorship programs, support for international students, community and family support services, elderly and child care support, employment and career development workshops, and lastly, settlement and integration guidance. On August 8, 2025, AISIC received its Canada Revenue Agency registration number, that's the CRA number. And this means that we have been officially recognized as a non-profit organization. So all donations made to AISIC are eligible for official tax receipts. Over the years, by the grace of God, AISIC has continued to grow and serve the African community in Canada, promoting hope, empowerment, and transformation for newcomers. Next on my agenda is an introduction of today's speaker. Our speaker today, Akintunde Ayoade, is a professional engineer and certified energy manager, passionate about sustainability and energy efficiency. He helps industrial and commercial organizations reduce energy costs, improve operational performance, and lower their carbon emissions through practical energy management solutions. Please welcome with me Mr. Akintunde Ayoade as he takes over now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this seminar on smart home energy savings. So, whether you are currently a homeowner or you are aspiring to get a home at some point, understanding energy use at home is becoming increasingly important to everyone. So, every year, the cost of energy is increasing, and many homeowners are lacking the practical knowledge of managing the utilities, natural gas, electricity, water at home. So this webinar is aimed at helping everyone to understand how energy is being used at home. An average home in Canada spends thousands of dollars on utilities every year. So, but most of this energy we are paying a lot of money on, most of them are being wasted. So we want to see how we can manage this energy, reduce how much we are spending on this, and also make the home very comfortable for everyone. By the end of this presentation, you will have a clear understanding of your home's energy use, and you'll be able to create a roadmap for making informed decisions about how you can save money, improve your comfort, and also reduce the environmental footprint of your home. So before I continue, I also want to emphasize that in as much as this webinar is for us to save how much we are spending on utilities, we want to make sure that everybody is also living comfortably in our homes. So not that we are trying to save energy and we will be living in discomfort. Maybe we will not heat our homes up to the level we're supposed to heat it to. So it's a kind of balanced thing. We are operating our home for comfortability, and we are also trying to reduce waste and cost of running the home. So if you look at this on the screen, we can see that mortgage for everyone is the biggest expenses that we spend our money on a monthly basis. But as much as mortgage is a huge part of our expenses, over the years the amount we spend on payment of the mortgage tends to decrease. But utility, which is the next one, about 17%, it tends to increase as times goes on because first of all, energy use increases every year. Apart from that, as the home deteriorates, the need to use more energy is part of the deterioration. We spend more energy as the home is aging. So that means we need to pay a very big attention to how much we spend on our utilities. So the agenda for the meeting this evening is there are a lot of things we want to cover, but we'll make sure we deal with them briefly as much as possible. So first of all, we'll talk about home energy use.
What's that?
That is how to
You want to go?
understand how building is using the energy. We are paying for natural gas, we are paying for electricity. Where are where are they going? So we understand that. Then we'll also talk about how we can save on natural gas and electricity. What are the practical steps we can take? Then we talk about seasonal preparation. In that case, we are talking about how we are transitioning from maybe fall to winter. What are the preparation we should make? And when we are transitioning from winter to spring, what are the things we should take into account to make sure that we don't spend excessively on utilities? We talk about ventilation and humidity control. We explore how proper ventilation and humidity management can improve indoor air quality, protect your home, and enhance energy efficiency. So we also talk briefly about water management, how we can learn simple ways to reduce water consumption. Then we talk about safety. We talk about simple maintenance. And the last part is the rebate, energy rebate. If you want to reduce energy consumption in your home, there are some government rebates that you are eligible to. So please don't go to the end. That aspect, we will dwell a little bit on that. So I will start with this typical electricity and natural gas bill. So I just want to point some things out from this utility bill. So if you look at the top part, this is the electricity bill for 1 month. This is the previous energy meter reading. Then this is the current one, and this is the difference. So this is the amount of kilowatt hour that was used for 29 days. So, but if you go down to the natural gas data, so I just want to point something very important here. So the basic charge is $14.75. So this amount, whether you buy natural gas for that particular month or you need to pay for this, in so far you are connected to the network of natural gas with the Manitoba Hydro, you need to pay this. But something very important is the cost of natural gas, which is this. But if you look at the delivery charge, we can see that we are even paying more for the delivery of natural gas more than the cost of the natural gas. So what this one is telling us is that if we are trying to reduce how much natural gas we are consuming, we are not just saving on how much the natural gas actually costs, but we are saving even more, 200%, when we use less energy for delivery charge. So we should keep that in mind. So the next slide is also another bill, but this is a water bill for 1 month. So the first part is the waste management. This is the amount we pay for the waste. We can't do anything about this because whether they carry your garbage or not, you are paying this. But for the water aspect of it, this is an area that we can pay attention to and reduce how much we are going to pay for it. So another important part of this is if you look at this very well, the same amount, the same quantity of water that were charged for supplying potable water into our home, that same quantity of water is being charged as a sewage. And as a matter of fact, we are paying more for the sewage water we use than the potable water that is supplied to our home. Again, if you reduce the quantity of water you use, you are not just saving on the cost of the water, but you are saving on the same amount of water that will have gone into sewage, which will mean a lot in savings for you. So another thing I want to talk about, it is also very important for us to submit water meter and the electricity meter readings every month. So in that case, you are actually paying for what you used for that particular month, instead of when the supplier is just estimating that, okay, a typical home should use so cubic meter of water in a month, or so kilowatt hours of electricity in a month. So when we submit water reading, we're actually paying for what we use. This slide is a kind of energy benchmarking. If you are, I don't know if everybody receives this from Efficiency Monitor, but I do receive this every month. So it's just like telling you where you are in your energy savings in your home. So in a particular environment, they look at all the homes in that environment, maybe about 300 or 500 homes, and they look at the energy use for that particular month. So they try to do a benchmarking to see how your home is compared to other homes in the neighborhood. So if every month where you are in the rating is always average, or you are even paying more than an average user, is a signal for you to know that I'm not managing the energy in my home appropriately, and there might be a lot of opportunities for improvements to save energy in your home. The next slide is talking about the factor affecting home energy use. Two houses on the same street may be on the same area, but they'll be using far more energy or far less energy than other houses. So these are the factors that can contribute to how much energy is being consumed. First of all, I will talk about the home size. If you have a very large footage of home, your house is very big, it's going to require more energy for heating, for cooling, even lighting, and operating the appliances in that home. So we should put that in mind. Also, the age of the building is another factor. Older homes often consume more energy because they have less insulation. So when we are buying a home, for example, if I'm buying a home that was built in, let's say, 1940, I would not expect that home to be energy efficient, because in 1940, the insulation they use for the walls, they are not efficient. Some of those homes don't even have insulations at all. Some use newspaper or waste paper as insulation. So those are the things we need to consider. Not every very old home are like this, because over the years there might be some renovation on those buildings. So if we are buying an old home, these are the things we need to look for. What are the renovations that have been done on this home over the years? So another thing is the equipment efficiency. If our boiler, furnace, or any other equipment we are using in the home, if they are very old or less efficient, they will consume more energy, and it's going to increase our cost. Another thing to consider is the household size. How many people are in the house? If a house is having just 4 people, it will consume less energy compared to a home that has maybe 8 people living in it. Another one, which is a very big one, is the weather. The weather, cold the winter or how hot the summer is, has a very big impact on how much we spend on energy. So we can't control that, but we will limit our retrofit, our actions on what is within our control. So the last part, which is the middle one, is the habit. The behavior of the people living in the house is also very important. A very good approach for us to manage how much energy we use in the house is to understand the interaction between outdoor condition and our indoor condition. If we understand that, it's going to be very easy for us to take advantage of those environmental conditions outside to help us stay comfortable in our home and also reduce how much we spend on energy. If you look at this chart, this graph, it shows that this line up here is going down. This is during winter, that is temperature coming down. So as the temperature is reducing, we see that the amount of natural gas that is being used is increasing. So that is just the impact of on how much we spend on energy. This next one is electricity. There is no significant correlation between the how temperature outside is compared to how much we spend on electricity. This is basically because electricity use is not really weather dependent. For example, if we are using cooker to cook, electric stove to cook our food, whether it is summer or winter, we still use them. The only thing that may change during this time is maybe during longer nights, we may need to turn our lights on for a longer period of time. And maybe because in the winter people stay more at home, it may increase energy use for appliances, for watching TV and other things like that. So the idea of this graph is just to show how weather interacts with energy use. So this is the graph that shows how much of our energy we are paying for natural gas, we are paying for electricity, where are they going? So as we see in this pie chart, we see that about 60% of the energy we are using at home is going for home heating to keep our home warm. And this is where natural gas is being used. No other place, except if you are not in Manitoba, or if you are in Manitoba and you are using natural gas to do your cooking. But if it is just a typical Manitoba house, all your natural gas is going towards home heating. For electricity, it's going to water heating, to appliances, to cooling, and to lighting. So that is where the remaining 40% is going. So now, if I want to save on natural gas, which is basically for heating, what are the areas in my home that I'm going to look at? So that's going to happen in the next slide. So as we can see, this picture at the right hand side, this is the building envelope. When I say building envelope, I'm referring to everything that encloses your home. Talking about the wall, the windows, the doors, the floor, and the roof. So if you look critically at this picture, we see how much of the heat we have in our home, how much of them are going out through each of these different media. Just to explain, the reason why we are heating our home continuously is because the heat in our home is not retained in the home. Because if we can retain our heat in the home, we can just heat up our home in the morning and turn off the heater for the rest of the day. But it's not true, because as we are eating, it is escaping through the windows, through doors, through the floor, through the roof, and all of that. As you can see, 35% of the heat is going out through the wall. And the next one is the window, which is taking about 26% of the heat. So if I want to reduce how much I'm spending on natural gas in my home, these are the areas I'm going to look into. How is my wall? Is it airtight? Are, are there a lot of drafts where cold air is seeping in during winter? How is my windows? Are they very old? Are they single pane, triple pane, or double pane windows? How is my door? Are they airtight? Do you have some weather stripping that can retain your heat, or is very porous? So these are the areas that we are going to look at. So that's everything natural gas we are paying for is actually going, this is where it is draining out. So if I want to reduce natural gas, I'm going to seal up my home to make sure that my heat is not losing too fast. So the next aspect is electricity. So to your appliances, lighting, water heating, cooling, this is where the electricity is going to. So if your home is having natural gas boiler for heating water, so this might not be applicable here, but I believe most homes are using electric water heater. So if I want to save on natural gas and electricity, so what are the things that I'm supposed to do? First of all, we deal with natural gas first. So as we explained before, all the natural gas is being lost through the envelope. So building envelope has to do with where natural gas is being used. So if I want to reduce natural gas, I'm going to deal with air leaks. So where are the aspect of my homes I see that there is leakages? Maybe if you are cooling your house during cooling period as we are now, we want to retain the cooling as much as possible in our home. So we need to seal up. Maybe there are gaps in the window, there are gaps in the wall or wherever. We need to deal with that. There is actually an instrument that you can use to detect how much, to see if you are having leakages in your home. Another thing is insulation. Insulation is just like what is inside your wall to reduce movement of heat between outside and your home. So we need to work on the insulations to reduce this amount of natural gas we are using. Also, if you have a basement, we need to pay attention to it. So if we find out that there are some leakages through the basement, the windows of the basement is not properly locked, that is enhancing some infiltration into the home, we need to pay attention to that. Also, another thing is the temperature set point. Like I said, we are not telling anyone not to cool or heat your house to your comfort, but we don't need to overdo it. So when you are doing your temperature set point, maybe 20, 21, 22 is okay. Is enough to keep you warm in the house. But if you are setting your temperature to maybe 25, 24 degrees, it might be too hot and you are wasting energy in that area. Another thing is balanced ventilation. Ventilation, we are going to deal with that later, but it's basically how air is moving, circulating your home. So if you have a balanced ventilation, it will not concentrate in one place and the other aspect of the home is not heated. So when you have a balanced ventilation, makes the heating go around the home is evenly. So another thing is smartness. This basically is about when we are not at home, we don't need to overheating or overcooling the home. We are going to talk about this in other slides. So the last part in this area is heating system. We need to make sure that we are taking care of the heating system. The filters of the furnace or boiler we are using is very clean at every time. And we make sure that this heating is passing through ducts in the home. If the ducts are blocked, it will be difficult for the fan to blow the hot air around the house. So we should make sure that all the ducts are clean and are free of blockage. So if you want to save on electricity, these are the area on the left-hand side where we need to concentrate on. So in terms of cooling, it also has to do with slope. We need to make sure that there is no leakages in the wall, windows, and stuff like that. We need to pay attention to the set points. We are not overcooling the house. Cooling system, we need to pay attention to the filters to make sure that it is clean and the ducts are also free of blockage. So the other part is lighting. So I know everybody is conscious about lighting, but if you look at the chart I shared, lighting is just 4% of energy we are using at home. So if our energy management is only lighting, just go and off the light, don't turn on the light. We are concentrating on the minor, but still there is a bit of savings. If the lighting you have in your house, there are all these incandescent bulbs, we can remove them, replace them with LED. You save a lot of energy by doing that. A typical old bulb is like 60, 70 watts. But if you replace them with LED, we are talking about 10 watts. So that means we are reducing energy by about 90%. So that is one area that we need to also pay attention to. Apart from that, when we are buying appliances in our home, there are Energy Star appliances. These are newer model of appliances that actually save energy. When energy is not needed, they cut off the supply, and in that case, we save a lot of energy. The other aspect is ventilation control and set point. We will deal with that more in more details in another slide. So this area is mostly for people that are interested in buying a home, or you have an old home that you want to upgrade to enhance energy management in your home. So these are the areas that we can look at when we are buying a new home, or when we have a old house and we want to upgrade them. So when people want to do upgrade for a new home, most of the cases we always concentrate on physical things like, help me change this doorknob, I want this type of cabinet, I want this type of floor. But in most cases, we don't pay attention to how we can upgrade our new home to reduce energy use. If I upgrade my cabinet, I just upgrade it just for aesthetics, just for it to look beautiful. It's not making me money. But any upgrade we do towards energy savings, those are the ones that is going to bring you money. When I say bring you money, if you spend a particular amount of money, for example, I want to build a house now. By a builder will always build your house to the minimum building code, building requirements by the city. So they don't go beyond the minimum for their own profitability. So it is left for us to say, I want to go a step further in my new home to reduce energy use. If they want to put, for example, if you want to put insulation on your wall, I think by building code R22 is the minimum. That is what they give you in your house. But if you want to go a step further, you can ask them, if I want to go R32, how much is it going to cost me to upgrade to this value? Even though this, when they seal up the house, you won't see the insulation, you won't see anything you have done as upgrade, but eventually you will find out that you are spending less on natural gas compared to other homes that didn't do this kind of upgrade. So another thing is window. If most of the houses, new houses now, they are double pane windows. There are triple pane windows in the market that will even save you more energy. So this is another area we can go to. Then temperature set point. There are programmable Wi-Fi thermostats that even we'll talk about that later. But even if you left the house, you were still running, cooling your home when you are in the office. You can use your smart thermostat on your phone to control your temperature to what you want it to look like. So these are the upgrades that we can also think about. Also, the heating system, the efficiency of the equipment. Efficiency really matters in your equipment. The difference between a furnace that is, for example, let's say 80% efficient, and another one that is 95 or 98% efficient is very wide. If you operate those two together, you find a lot of difference. So you can negotiate with your builder and say, what type of furnace are you installing for me? How much can I pay to have a better one? So these are the things we can look at. So in terms of electricity, we are talking about cooling, just like heating equipment. We can also negotiate the efficiency of the cooling system we are using in our homes, the lighting. So apart from having LED, the switches in our house can also be upgraded. Instead of having just on and off for all this lighting, we can have timers, dimmers, or sensors. For example, in your washroom that nobody is staying there perpetually, you can have a sensor that it is only when you enter the washroom that the light turns on, and when you're out, it turns off by itself. This is very important for if you have many people at home, or you are trying to preach energy savings to the rest of the family and not everybody is complying. But if you have just that sensor, it's going to help us to reduce how much we spend on lighting. Also, appliances, we should be mindful of what appliances the builders are installing, or if it is a old house, if you have very old fridge, it might be a good option for you to discard it and buy a new fridge that will save you energy. So the key information here is that when you go for energy, anything upgrade in line of energy management, by the time you count your savings year after year, most of the time in 1 year, for example, lighting, it yields a return very fast. In 1 year or even 6 months, the savings has already passed how much you bought your light. So the payback period is very short. So these are the things that are very important. So the next thing we want to look at is the ventilation system. Basically, ventilation and humidity control, they go hand in hand. It basically refers to how fresh air is brought into the building, how moisture in the air is managed to keep indoor conditions healthy and comfortable. So if you look at this picture on the screen, the leftmost one is showing how fresh air is coming into the building and how the stale air is exiting the building. So for us to stay comfortable at home, we need fresh air because most homes in Canada are tight, meaning that it's not just entering as draft or leaving the house. So if we are not intentional about how we are bringing fresh air into our home and how we are taking out stale air, we might be having insufficient oxygen in our home, which is not healthy for us. Apart from that, humidity is also a very important consideration. In our homes, the humidity is basically amount of how much water we have in the air at home. If it is too much, it's not good. If it is too dry, it's also not good. So we need to strike a kind of balance. So typically anything between 35 to 50% is good. So when we have humidity in our home that is rising to 60%, which you can also see on your ventilation control on the screen, you can see what the humidity is. So we should pay attention to that. Most of our homes in Canada, they are more like paper or wood, so water can easily have effect on them. So if there is too much humidity, it can cause condensation on walls and windows. It can cause mold to grow in the house. Even this mold might not be physical, it can be inside the insulation in the house. So we should pay attention to that so that we will not be falling sick and we will not know where the sickness is coming from. And they can also damage the wall. If there is too much water on the wall, before you know it, you find out that the wall is getting rotten. So we should pay attention to humidity as well. So how tight the house is also very important. For example, during winter, there is less water in the air because water in the air outside is already frozen. So the air is very dry outside. So during when we are at home, inside the house, we should make sure that the humidity is increased. So that is when we need humidifier. If you find out that there is less humidity, for example, if you are touching cloth in your house and it's sparking, you are feeling like a kind of electric shock when you touch something, it's an indication that the house is very dry. So in that case, you need to supply some humidity, some water into the air to make sure that we are comfortable. And if you are having a kind of a dryness in your throat every time you are at home, it's also an indication that you have less humidity. On the other hand, if you are having a lot of condensation on the wall, on the window, everywhere, you touch your sink or your toilet and you are seeing a kind of condensation everywhere, it's an indication that there is too much water inside your home. So in that case, you will need some dehumidifier to reduce the excess water in the home. So both ventilation and humidity, they go hand in hand. I've talked about why ventilation is important, so I will quickly talk about mechanical ventilation. So there are two ways we can control ventilation in our home. It's either we use the mechanical ventilation, which is let the machine do the job. Just set the ventilation system. If you need fresh air, if you need fresh air at home, you can set that and just ensure that you have enough oxygen and the indoor air quality is appropriate for the occupants of the home. The other one is the natural ventilation, which means you don't want the machine to do it, you want to do it by yourself, which is basically opening your windows or doors and let fresh air enters. The difference between the two is when you go for natural ventilation, you are saving energy, right? You don't let your fan run to circulate the air. But when you allow the ventilation system to undo it, there is always a filter between that the outdoor air is passing through. So filtering your air, making sure that all the contaminants they are being removed and you have higher quality air entering your home. So that's another thing we need to pay attention to. If you just open your window, all the doors and every microorganism and everything, they are also entering the home. So we should pay attention to that. If you have people at home that are very aged, or you have little babies at home, or people that have some medical conditions that has to do with that they are sensitive to quality of air, so I would suggest you let your ventilation system handle the ventilation of your home rather than just opening your window and think of which one works best for you. So the other part is the last part. I want to talk about the smart ventilation practices. Basically, when you are cooking at home, you see that there is a lot of smoke and other things everywhere is smelling your food. That is a time that we need to allow more fresh air to enter in your house and let the stale air to leave the house. So that is also very important. And okay, so this is just a screenshot that I took from the ventilation control. So I just want to spend some time to explain how what each of these things means. So if you look at the first one, it has 20 minutes per hour fresh air, which is where my mouse is, and the remaining 40 minutes in 1 hour is being circulated within the house. So what this means is that for every 1 hour, the damper in your house opens and fresh air comes in for 20 minutes. And for the rest of the minutes in the hour, the house, the air is circulated. So the next one is 10 minutes and 15 minutes. But the difference here is that only this 10 minutes per hour is when your fan is working, because it is the fan that is doing the circulation of air, taking air out, bringing fresh air in. So for the rest of the time, the fan stopped working for 50 minutes. The other one is this one. In this case, which is the third one on the bottom left side, that this basically means that we close all the dampers. No air is coming in, no air is going out. And the last one, which is number 4, is when we are having fresh air supply 247. Let me just this last one, where you're having fresh air 247, is the most expensive way to run your ventilation system, because in winter that means you are bringing cold air consistently and you are loading your heating equipment to make sure that this cold air is being heated. Imagine heating air from, let's say, -20 to +20. So that is a lot of 40 degrees addition of heat to your home. So we should pay attention to that. I will not suggest you run your home this way, except in some cases, maybe your home is stuffy, or maybe you just work on chemicals or anything in your home. I remember there was a time that I bought a new furniture and I found out that the furniture has a lot of, it smells so much. There is a kind of chemical treatment on the wood. So I had to do this, even though it's winter. So when it is required, you can do 100% fresh air just for some time to get rid of some gases from your home. But on the other hand, I will not suggest closing your dampers 100%. No fresh air is coming in for days. At some point, we will exhaust all the oxygen in the home, and by that time, we not have enough oxygen to breathe. So that one too is not good. So it's now left for us to choose whether we want fresh air coming in every 20 minutes or every 10 minutes in 1 hour. So those are the two options that we can always go with. So I just want to point out something out from these two graphs. This first one was Thursday this week. This is the energy consumption for a home on Thursday, and this is the one for yesterday, which is 29th of May. If you look at this graph, you see that the energy consumption from morning till around 8 o'clock is very low, which is I'm using less than 1 kilowatt hour for per 1 hour. But this shows when we wake up, we started on use hot water, use stove, microwave, and after that time, everybody goes to work, and the energy drops to less than 1 kilowatt per hour. And when people start returning from work, the energy starts increasing again. So that is for one day. The other day is yesterday. After everybody goes to work, we can see that the energy is still rising even when nobody was at home, making this house to use 20% more energy than on Friday than on Thursday. What makes the difference between these 2 days is basically when the occupant of this house left the house on Thursday, they reduced the cooling system. We were not cooling the house as much as if someone is in the house. We reduce how much cooling is in the house, so which saves a lot of energy when nobody was at home. But on Friday that nothing was done, we saw that even when no one was at home, the house is still consuming a lot of electricity. So this is something that we should look at, and it's going to make a lot of difference. If one is running this house this way, it's going to cost a lot on electricity. So one way to do this is to program our thermostat to see when we are at home and when we are not at home, so that the house is not being heated or cooled too much when the occupants of the home are not at home. So to do that, these are the different types of Wi-Fi thermostat that we can work with. So even if you forgot to do something, even when you are not at home or you went on vacation, you can always control your home. Imagine I left the house and I didn't change anything. I went on vacation for 2 weeks. The house will still be running as if somebody is in the house, and even though I was not at home, I'm still going to pay as if I'm at home. So if you forgot to do stuff like that, you can use your programmable Wi-Fi thermostat to do all those settings when you are away. So I quickly want to talk about seasonal preparation, how to prepare when we are moving from winter to spring and maybe from fall to winter. So first of all, we need to inspect roof and gutters and downspouts. So winter can be very harsh on home in Manitoba. Spring inspection helps us to identify hidden damage caused by snow. So we had a lot of snow in the winter. We should pay attention to those aspects of our home to see where are the areas that we are seeing leakages, and it's very easy for us to identify when your home is leaking. At some point, just look at your ceiling, look everywhere to see if there is any mark on the wall or on the ceiling. You can see whether there is water leakages, and we should pay attention to that. And also, if you go to your basement as well and you look at the baseboard, if there are leakages or water coming into your house, you will see from there the mark, and we should pay attention to that. Also, we should inspect our windows and doors for moisture. If there is any damage on the window, we should pay attention to that. Also, before it starts getting very hot, we should check our cooling system to make sure that, because in the winter sometimes the rodents and rats, they live in those AC. So before we start the AC for the first time in the spring or in summer, we should physically go and check it before we start it to make sure that there is nothing that can block the blade or that can make the AC not to work as we want. Then we should also check our vents. Vents, they are the passage of air in the building where air is circulating. So sometimes your children might have put some toys and put cloths in those vents. If those things are blocked, even though you are cooling your house, your cooling will be trapped in those places where it is blocked. So we need to look at those places too. And also, if there are some spaces in your homes that you are not using, if you have extra room, if you have a basement and nobody is there, those vents, they can be closed or opened. So any space that you are not using, you can just turn those things off. If you have a closet in your home and you don't stay there for too long, there's no point eating that particular space. So the more you close what you are not using, the more concentrated you have cooling in your spaces that you actually want. So we should pay attention to that. Then humidity, we have talked about that. We should always check for the level of humidity in our homes. Then we should also inspect the foundation of our home to see that there is no leakages. Also, we need to pay attention to the sump pump. Sump pump is the pump that is in your foundation. When we are going to rainy season now, there is going to be a serious water level increase in your foundation, and it is this sump pump that bring those water out of your home. So we should make sure that we don't turn off or unplug that sump pump, else when the water level rises it can flood our basement. So that's another area we should look at. So if you are transitioning from fall to winter, the first thing we should do is to make sure that we inspect our furnace. If you have a old furnace, you might need to bring a technician to check it to make sure that it is working. The earlier we do this before winter, the cheaper it is. These technicians, they are very busy at the beginning of winter because that is the time that most people find out that the heating equipment is not working well. So we should also look at that. Then if there is draft, your window is leaking, there are minor repairs we should do. You can buy caulk from the store and use caulking to seal up any draft. And also we should check our smoke detectors to make sure that they are working perfectly, to make sure that when there is any source of carbon monoxide in the home, it is actually detected. So some houses, when we see smoke detectors or CO2 detectors beeping, it means that the battery has run out. And at that point, those smoke detectors, they are not working. So when you are hearing beeping of those smoke detectors, we should, as fast as possible, replace those batteries to make sure that they are working. Because if they are not, that means there might be dangerous gases in your home and you will not know. So we should not ignore those signs. So safety practices. So I've just run through some safety practices that we should look at. We start from the carbon monoxide that I just talked about. We should make sure that your smoke detectors are working well, and we should replace the batteries. And also this battery on the screen is very dangerous in the sense that the two terminals, the positive and negative, they are on the same surface. So this can cause fire. It has caused is a cause for a lot of fire incidences. So if you put this fire somewhere and maybe a key just breach those two terminals, it will spark. And if there is anything that is flammable around that side, around that surface, it can cause fire. So when we replace this battery, even when they are dead, we should cover them. And if it is a new one that we have, you can just use a tape to cover those two terminals to make sure that it cannot come in contact with any metal. Inspect your fireplaces and chimney yearly. Keep portable heaters away from curtain and furnitures. So when we are using portable heaters for any reason, we should pay attention to it to make sure that nothing is blocking it, it's not close to anything flammable, and it's not covered by cloth or anything because it can cause fire. And clean dryer vents to reduce fire risk. So recently I heard about a fire incident in Ontario, and basically what caused that fire is the dryer running. There was a cloth that hung in between the dryer drum and the actual dryer, and as the dryer is running on the cloth, it caused friction and that actually caused fire. So It's not a good idea for us to be drying our house, our clothes, and we go out. So as much as possible, make sure you are doing your drying when you are at home. And make sure that all the links in the dryer is removed. So another aspect we should also know is that everybody should know where your shut off for your water is. If there is any damage to your plumbing and there is flood, it is very important for you to know where you can turn it off. If you don't turn it off, you are waiting for a plumber or someone to come and do it. Before they come, the damage will have been too much. So we should know where to shut off the water and where to shut off the breaker for the house in case there is any issue. And also, I've talked about the vents. Servicing of your equipment is very important. Keep the vents unobstructed. Don't stop flammable materials near your heating equipment. So I will quickly talk about how to save water. So if there is any leaking equipment, plumbing in your house, we need to pay attention to it and fix it as soon as possible. And we can install water savings fixtures. There are some taps in our house that is very energy water efficient, that doesn't waste water like other ones. So we should look at that. And when we are using water to in our garden and our lawns, we should always know that as we are paying for the water, we are also paying much more for the sewage, which is not even applicable when we are using the water to water the lawn. So let's also look at that. The last part is the energy rebate. What energy rebate means is that it's not like government is giving free money to support to people, but they just want energy retrofits, upgrade in your home to be less burdensome for everybody to do. For example, if you buy a new window, before you can make your money back, it might take up to 10 years, or let's say 5 years. But if government pay part of that, it makes your payback period closer. You'll be able to break even very shortly after you complete the project. So these are the different ways that you can access this rebate. For example, if you are a landlord, you can increase the insulation of your home. The government is going to give you money for the insulation materials you buy to upgrade your walls. So that's one. So there is another one, energy efficiency assistance program. This is basically for not for everyone. If your family income qualifies for this, you are going to get $300 for every eligible window or doors that you replace. The eligible there is very important. You can't get a window 5 years ago and you say you want to replace it now. That one is not eligible. Your windows should be bad enough for you to replace. So another one is window and door rebate. This one, it doesn't have to. You don't have to be. Your income is not a consideration. I think you get $100 for every eligible door or windows that you upgrade. Smart thermostat rebate, like I mentioned before, smart thermostat is very important for you to save on energy. So if you reinstall a smart thermostat, you can get a $50 rebate for installing it. So basically, you install it, you show the picture that you install it, you share the receipt of the thermostat, then they will refund you $50. For example, if you buy thermostat for $200, if they give you $50, that means they have given you 25%, which is a good one. Another one is cold climate air source heat pump rebate. This is another one that we can take advantage of. The solar PV rebate. So this is another one, you can get up to $5,000 in rebates for this. And home energy retrofit, if you have a very old home and you want to do some upgrade around that, is something you can consider as well. So this is an example of, I actually contacted a contractor to help me to install 5 kilowatt solar panel in my home. And this is information I have from them. So for installing 5 kilowatts of solar panels, they are going to install 10 solar panels in my roof, and that is going to generate 7,224 kilowatt hours of electricity for my home annually. Currently, I don't use up to 7,000 kilowatt hours. So that means this solar panel is enough to cover my house for a whole year, but it's not directly working that way because I may have more electricity generated than I want in summer when there is sufficient sunlight, but in winter all these solar panels might be covered with snows, so that means I won't get anything during that time. So I still need to buy electricity when I don't have that, and when I have excess, I can sell it to Manitoba Hydro for some money back. If I get this 5 kilowatts, it's going to cost me about 13,000, no, about 15,000 to install. And by the time I get rebate and everything, I'm going to get 2,500 in rebate, and it's going to cost me eventually 13,000. So when I did this analysis, it might take me up to 10 years before I make my money back. But the good part is that this solar panel can last up to 25 years. So that means after 10 years that I paid off everything about this solar panel, I can be using free electricity for the next 15 years. So that is something that you can also consider if you have interest. So that is the end of the presentation. If we are open to questions.
Hello, sir. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
having some difficulties unmuting myself. Thank you so much for
Okay.
that power packed presentation. I've taken a lot of lessons from it, and I believe that a lot of other people on the call has as well. So it's time for questions. I've checked the chats, and there are no questions there. I don't know if anyone has questions to ask. If you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask, or maybe raise your hand, or even put the questions on the chat in the chat box, whichever one is comfortable for you.
I think there's a question in the chat. So someone is asking, is it possible to upgrade the already installed insulation in the house? So if the house is recent and you just install some insulation, it's going to cost you a lot more to upgrade the insulation that you just did. Like I said, this thing has to do with a payback period. If I upgrade any part of my home, I'm spending a lot of money on that, and I want to save a lot of money over time to cover for the how much I've spent. So if we are upgrading an installation that is already done and to some extent is still recent and is still good, it's going to cost you more than it, and your payback period might be 20, 30, or I don't know. It's not going to be economically okay. But if it is a very old building that the insulation is very old or no insulation at all, great. It is something that one can consider.
Thank you so much. There's another comment on the chat, and the comment is from someone named Eugene. He says that this is a loaded presentation. Like I said, I'm sure that we've all picked one or two things from here. I have a notepad full of notes that I have taken. And at least one takeaway for me is that we can save money on utility while living comfortably in our homes and reduce our carbon emissions. So, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your knowledge and skills with us. I don't know if anyone else has any questions and or any comments before we move on to other things.
I think there's another question. That's the person asking, what upgrade can I do to save energy? My house is about 10 years old. So,
I can't see
okay.
the question, but go on, sir.
So, depends on where, first of all, how is your home performing? Like I said, Efficiency Manitoba sends a kind of email every month to show the performance of your home. That is a very good starting point to see where you are at that point. If your home is performing poorly or fair, that means you have opportunities for improvement that will be economically viable. So we just need to look at those places where energy is being used at home. On this pie chart, water heating, electrical appliances, lighting and stuff like that, we should look at them and see which one requires upgrade. If you have some lighting in your home that are very old, it's something you can look at, that you can buy LED lamps and do that. And programmable thermostat control how much you heat or cool the house. There are a lot of small things that we don't pay attention to and can save us a lot of money. Like instead of using hot water to wash your clothes, you can just use cold water. Is almost the same effect, except if you have some special clothes, maybe you, based on the type of work you do, you have to sanitize or treat those clothes. But ordinarily, everybody should use cold water to wash clothes, or reduce how much water we spend on shower and all of that. So those are the different areas. It doesn't have to be like big projects that we are talking about. A 10-year-old house is still very efficient compared to when you have houses that are 80, 100 years old. So 10 years old, you might not need a very big improvement. But first of all, where you are at this present time, it matters a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. I have two questions. The first one is about the prepaid plan for hydro. Do you think it's a good idea? And then the other one is about the efficiency Manitoba email that you talked about. Is that sent generally to users, or are we supposed to request for it some way?
I can't remember how I started receiving them. I'm not sure. My thought is that everybody receives it, but if you don't receive it, you can send an email to them to request for it. It's very important. It helps everybody to know where they stand. Then prepaid. I think everybody. So in my own house, I submit meter reading every month, and I forgot to mention we should always submit our electricity and natural gas meter reading between 20 and I think 22, 3 days of every month. So if you submit your meter reading between 20 and 22, they maybe 2 or 3 days after, they are going to send you actual bill that you use for that month based on the meter reading you submitted, and that is how much you have to pay. So I think everybody is on that plan, but if it is different, if you are on, maybe you pay the same amount throughout the year, that is fine. But it's just that at the end of the year, you might have deficit or you might have surplus. But submitting meter reading and getting actual monthly, I think that is the best.
Thank you so much, sir. I don't know if there's any other question in the chat. For some reason, mine
Yeah.
isn't updating. But
Okay, I have another question here. Can you explain
okay.
what the numbers on thermostats represent? There is one that's raised as a percentage and another one beside it on which one represents the humidity. Let me quickly go to that particular slide. So that 55 percentage on the screen is talking about relative humidity. So this is how much water you have in the air in your home. Like I said, anything between 30 to 50% is great. So 55% as it is now, not too bad, but is already beyond the limit. So that is talking about relative humidity. So that is the one that's relative humidity. So this number one beside the fan is talking about the speed of your fan. So if you are not too many in your house, one is okay. The fan runs enough to bring enough air and take out the stale air. But if the occupancy in your home is large, maybe there are a lot of people at home, or you are doing some activities that requires more fresh air, you might need to increase the speed of the fan. I think the speed can go up to 5. So this one is about the speed of the fan. This 42 is basically my own setting. This is how the maximum I've set for my humidity to go to, but for some reason is already 55. So no more question right there.
Sir, thank you so much for your time and for sharing this knowledge with us. God bless you. We appreciate it, sir. I'm going
Thank you.
to turn off the recording and go on to announcements. Thank you again, Mr. Akin. We really enjoyed the
Thank you.
session and we pray that the Lord continues to bless you. Thank you so much,
Amen.
sir.
It's my pleasure.